Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Wayback When. My name is Hannah and this is
Maria.
Maria. And
We're bad at this.
yeah, we can't stop laughing. We're both very nervous about this.
It's okay, it's our first episode.
Yeah, welcome to our new podcast. This is a history podcast. And because we're both history
nerds.
And we're both nerds, so we decided, hey, let's set up a podcast. That could be fun. That'd be a good idea. Do you want to...
We tried once before.
Yeah, that was awful.
That went well.
That was appalling. Right, do you want to introduce our first topic and sort of what we'll be talking about today?
Okay, so I've been low-key obsessed with this person for like maybe 4 or 5 months now.
That sounds like you're a stalker.
No, she's dead. It's okay. So it's Julia the Elder. She's the eldest and only biological daughter of the first Roman Emperor, Augustus. And she died 1,982 years ago.
Whoa! Big up Julia!
Yeah. So I'll be talking about her because my obsession has reached its peak.
Absolutely.
And Hannah's going to put up with me for however long.
Yeah. So I literally know barely anything about Julia the Elder. The most I know is from your TikTok and your memes, and even those I don't really understand. So I've got some questions here.
Spam. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
So I'm going to ask you those, and you are just basically going to answer them, and teach me a lesson. And then I'm going to get you back in another episode and teach you about someone. So, yeah.
I'm scared now.
But, no, I'll have to choose something really good for that.
I have a whole 4-page timeline, so
we've got a lot to get through.
Go through the basics of that, not all of it.
Yeah.
Some of it's not important.
I feel like you've already obviously briefly touched on this, but who was Julia the Elder? And if you had to talk about her in one sentence, what would that be?
Rome's slag. Basically. No, okay, so she is the only daughter of the first Roman emperor, and she's quite famous for her explicit activities. Yeah.
You see, I had no idea about that.
Oh, I didn't. I assumed you did, but
she's
just mostly famous for her for what she did with other Roman men. So, but this is PG-13, so it's fine.
PG-13, yeah. Let's keep it clean.
Yeah. I won't go into detail.
I've put down here, obviously, the time period she was alive, which we all know is the Roman Empire. And then I've got key dates in her life. So, shall we go through from like a birth to death type thing?
I need to give a bit of background before I start.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. So basically, she's born in the midst of a civil war. If you've read Shakespeare's Julius Caesar,
which I
you know Brutus.
Yeah.
Offs Julius Caesar. And then a big civil war starts with Mark Antony and Octavian.
Oh, I do love Mark Antony. Sorry, poor Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Well, 6-year-old me, that was my shit.
2 minutes. So Octavian is also Augustus, so they're the same person.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Octavian is his name before he became emperor. Augustus is his imperial name. Okay, and Mark Antony and him get into this little spat because Julius Caesar left absolutely everything to Augustus, which Mark Antony was like, hey, mate, I was your best friend. I thought you would have at least left me a few stuff.
Weren't they both with Cleopatra?
Who? Yeah, no. Yeah. Julius Caesar had a child with Cleopatra.
Right.
Caesarion, which basically means Little Caesar.
Yeah.
And Octavian actually kills the son.
Yeah.
So that he is the sole heir to the imperial throne.
So is Antony and Cleopatra true also?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, cool. So I know Mark Antony quite well then.
What happens is in the middle of the civil war, Mark Antony kind of goes to Egypt and has loads of kids with Cleopatra. They get married, all that wonderful stuff. And then the civil war lasts unnecessarily long and it's extremely boring. So there's a battle called the Battle of Actium, which takes place in 31 BC. Julia's about 7 at this point. And this is where Octavian/Augustus and Agrippa force Cleopatra and Mark Antony out of Egypt and Greece.
Yeah.
And then a year later they kill themselves.
Yeah, with the snake and shit, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the background of what she's born into and what she lives through, which is, it's not really important to her, but it will be important when I'm talking about a few of her lovers later on, which is interesting to say the least. But yeah, I think I should just start from her parents.
Yeah,
because
go for it.
They're interesting. Also, excuse the way I pronounce names, because Roman names are... they're great.
Tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough,
So,
I wouldn't know
Augustus, her dad, is obviously the Roman emperor. And his second wife, Scribonia, I know, amazing name, right? Great name. They don't really like each other. But she gets pregnant, and Augustus is like, great, now I have an opportunity to have an heir or have a daughter that will produce heirs for me. So he has Julia, they have Julia, and the day Julia is born, Augustus divorces Scribonia.
Oof.
And steals Julia, virtually. He takes her away, and Julia's never raised by her biological mother. Which is kind of sad. And what explains a lot, actually.
What happens to the mother then?
You don't know. She just kind of disappears in Roman life. Like, she's given a few luxuries here and there. She's not exiled or anything, but she just becomes unimportant, virtually. Until later on, which is... I'll talk about that later.
Someone's got mummy issues by the sound of things.
And daddy issues, as we'll hear later. But yeah, Augustus then marries this delightful woman, Livia Drusilla, who is his third wife. And Livia Drusilla, she's an interesting character. She's she's very high in Roman aristocracy, and she kind of wants to just promote herself, promote her sons, make sure her and her kids get the best, which we'll see later on as well. But she's obviously not Julia's biological mother, but she raises her anyway. And Julia... Oh, this is something else I didn't mention. Julia was engaged at the age of 2.
I mean, yeah. But that happens to lots of women throughout history. Like, look at... was Mary Queen of Scots? She was nearly engaged to Edward, wasn't she? Edward Tudor.
Really? I didn't know that. You're going to have to tell me about
that. I'm pretty sure. I may be making that up, and I may have just ruined my reputation as a wannabe historian. But I'm pretty sure it's certain that she was nearly engaged to him. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's fine. Julia was actually engaged to Mark Antony's son. But then because of the Civil War, that got broken off.
Ah, no.
The son was about 10 at the time, so that wouldn't have been such a big age gap back then.
Yeah.
Like, 2 and 10 is, like, actually really abnormal, because normally in Roman society, it was like, you'd be 14, he'd be 45, basically.
Nice.
So Julia's raised in luxury. She's raised by the best educators of Rome. She's got access to literally anything she wants. Obviously, because they're rich, they get a lot of books, a lot of poems, all that stuff, which normal Roman people wouldn't normally get. So but she's quite rebellious. She's like, I don't really want to do that because my dad controls everything. So I'm just going to try to be as rebellious as I can. And she's just given a private education. She lives a life of like luxury and wealth until she's about 14. When she marries her first cousin, Marcus Claudius Marcellus. Okay, he's 17.
Alabama.
You'll see that a lot. Like, it's quite a lot. And he's 17, she's 14.
Again, not
They're
too bad.
very... Yeah, no, it's not too bad. The only bad thing is they're, like, first cousins.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think the reason she married Marcus Claudius Marcellus is because Augustus wanted him to be his heir.
Right.
So if Augustus died, Marcus would take the throne. or the imperial throne,
Yeah.
and become emperor. But sadly, 2 years later, Marcus dies of a mysterious illness.
Ooh.
Just dies of a mysterious illness randomly, which we'll see a lot in this story. People just kind of dropping dead of their own accord everywhere, which is a bit suspicious if you ask me. So she's 16 when he dies, and then she kind of just chills for another 2-3 years. And if you heard me mention before, her dad's best friend is Agrippa. So Octavian/Augustus is like, I know who should marry my daughter, my best friend.
I just immediately thought of Friends with Monica and what's his face.
Oh my god, I never even thought of that. But it's literally that.
Yeah, so how old would the dad and his best friend have been?
Okay, so I have this written down somewhere. He's 25 years older than her.
Ah, right, okay.
Okay, so it's quite normal actually. Like, it's not abnormal. And she's 18, so she's like classed as a woman in Roman society. Because when you hit the age of 14, 15, if you become like a man or a woman.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And she apparently wasn't that into him in the beginning. She was like, ugh, he's kind of like my dad. It's kind of gross. But she puts up with it. She's like, right, I'll have kids with you and stuff because, you know,
why not?
My dad wants me to. And yeah, they go everywhere together. They have overall 5 kids together, which is quite a lot actually. Like, she's just having kids year after year after year after year. Like, they go to Athens, she has a kid. They go to Gaul, she has a kid. They come back to Rome, she has a kid. Like, they are doing a lot.
Keeping busy.
Yeah, and then there's this story where Julia goes to Troy, which is a real place, by the way.
Yeah.
She goes to Troy. We know a lot about Troy. And she almost drowns in a flash flood. And
well done.
Agrippa is like angry, and finds them 100,000.
Or
no, that she almost drowned.
Oh, okay.
He's like mega pissed. So he finds them 100,000 drachmae, which they cannot afford, like, at all. They would literally go into debt to the point where they would all starve and die. They pulled the Joseph Stalin, basically. And King Herod, which for all the Bible people,
yeah, we know him,
is the only person who can convince Agrippa to get rid of the fine. Which is quite funny actually, because Herod and Agrippa were like BFFs. Like, if you want to think of the best trio, it's Agrippa, Augustus, and Herod.
That's weird. Like, you see, I had no idea, because I'm like,
yeah, it's
obviously it's how do you believe that all of this is like is this documented?
Oh, all of this is documented, like 100%.
Because
the Romans wrote everything down.
Because I'm always like, I always take particularly the Bible with a pinch of salt, but it's interesting to see, because like obviously in the Bible very rarely mentions them interacting with anyone else outside of these
obviously
places, but anyway, continue. That just came into my head.
No, it's actually quite interesting because Herod's death is what we use to work out the AD BC timeline.
Yeah, to mark dates.
And they also used Herod's death in correlation to Julia's life. So Julia is like one of the reasons we have the whole BC AD timeline now.
Yeah, not just
quite interesting.
Before Christ and I can never remember what AD is.
Before Christ and Anno Domini.
Why can't that just be like simple, like BC? That's easy to remember, before Christ, and then I just think AD is just, you just know that it's after. But you know, I follow before Common Era and Common Era more, because that makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
And it's not going off the Bible, so.
Yeah.
But Wikipedia doesn't give me that information, so I had to use BC and AD for this. So yeah, Julia has 5 kids with him. Her first kid is called Gaius Caesar. Her second kid is Julia the Younger. which I just refer to as Vespania because Julia the Younger and Julia the Elder are too similar for me.
Yeah.
And then their third child is Lucius. Lucius, Gaius, Caesar. And they've all got the middle names Julius Caesar as well, which is so confusing. Because sometimes they'll just refer to them as Julius Caesar.
Sounds
and
like they're
which
trying to be a bit of a
one?
kiss ass, if you get what I
Yeah,
mean.
basically, Augustus forced
Yeah.
her to name all of her kids Julius Caesar. And their fourth child is Agrippina. And their fifth child is Marcus Posthumus, which, if you know what posthumous means, I don't know if you do, but
I can imagine what it means.
basically, the fifth kid is born after Agrippa dies. So while Julia is pregnant and she's in Rome, she gets news that her husband Agrippa is ill and he dies while she's pregnant.
Boo.
So she's really heartbroken apparently by this. Apparently Julia went into like deep mourning after she gave birth to their final son, and like Augustus was like, right, we can't have that. We've got to marry you off again.
Oh, lovely.
So she literally has the baby, and like not even a month later, she gets married off to her stepbrother.
Yay!
Yay! So if I mentioned Livia before, Tiberius is her stepbrother. He is the second son of Livia. Tiberius does not like Julia. Like, he hates her.
Nice.
Also because he was actually married to Julia's stepdaughter. Yeah, it's a really confusing family tree.
Yeah.
So Agrippa had been married a couple of times before. And he had other kids, one of which Tiberius was married to, and was deeply in love with her. They were literally, like, infatuated with each other. And then Augustus was like, right, Tiberius, you have to divorce your wife and marry your half-sister, your stepsister. And Tiberius was like, no, I'm not doing that. But Augustus is emperor, so he kind of, like, forces them to get divorced.
Yeah.
And so Julia and Tiberius get married.
Lovely.
Which is lovely. Julia hates him. She still misses her old husband. Tiberius literally follows his ex-wife around Rome crying to the point where they have to have guards with Tiberius at all times. Yeah, it's kind of depressing. So Augustus obviously hasn't had enough satisfaction from Julia having 5 kids already. So he's like to Julia, right, you're going to have a 6th kid with your stepbrother who you hate. And Julia's like, fine, 1 more. That's it. Just 1 more. I'm not having any more sons for you. And they do have 1 more kid. But unfortunately, the genes aren't that great and the child dies quite soon after it's born.
Aww.
And this is like the catalyst for a lot of shit, basically. Julia and Tiberius practically break up. Tiberius exiles himself voluntarily.
Tiberius sounds like such an annoying bitch, honestly.
Yeah, he is. He's
such
so whiny.
Simp. Whiny,
He
annoying.
is. Yeah, he's like, I never wanted to marry you anyway. You have so much sex with other people. I don't like you. And basically Tiberius exiled himself so he wouldn't have to have another kid with Julia.
So is she having loads of affairs throughout these marriages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of her marriages, she basically had a lot of sex with anyone, really. But she's the daughter of the emperor. Who cares, right? So Tiberius goes off to Rhodes for however long. I think it's like 6 years. Like, he stays in exile for like 6 years because he can't be bothered to have sex with Julia again. Literally the reason. Yeah.
Talk about a cold shoulder.
So then, if I mentioned Mark Antony before, right? He's dead at this point. Long dead. Julia starts having an affair with his son.
Right.
Which is
These
problematic, to say the least. Like, extremely problematic. Because Augustus has literally tried his hardest to erase Mark Antony from the face of the earth.
Yeah.
He doesn't produce coins with his face on it anymore. He gets rid of his public places in Rome. So Julia having a very public affair with his son causes quite a few problems. I also don't know if you know who Ovid is.
No. Who is he?
He's the guy who wrote, like, majority of Roman mythology.
Right, okay.
And Julia is also having an affair with him.
Oh,
and he made that extremely public, like, very public. He wrote it in all his poems. He's like, oh, I'm having an affair with the daughter of Rome. And Augustus is angry, like, extremely angry. So what he does is he's like, oh, I know what to do. We'll just kill all of her lovers and exile her, which is
right.
how you deal with the situation.
You could just ground her, but I mean, go on.
Yeah. Like, you'd think, oh, my daughter's been forced to marry 3 different guys she doesn't love. She's had 6 kids, one of which is dead. And, you know, just let her have some sex, you know?
Yeah,
it's not the problem. Slack. Yeah. And Augustus is like, nope, not doing that. So then he announces these rules that if your daughter is an adulterer, you can execute them.
Ah. Whoa.
Yeah, lovely execution.
He definitely had something against his daughter then, didn't he?
Definitely, 100%. And it's a public thing in Rome. Augustus is like, right, if your daughter's having too much sex, you can just kill her. It's fine.
Nice.
But Augustus himself is like, nah, I don't follow the rules. So he doesn't execute her. But he just sends her to a tiny island in the middle of the ocean. Where she's not allowed any men and she's not allowed any wine, which I think she was more upset about the wine than she was the men.
Yeah,
I think if I'm being honest. And you know the woman who gave birth to her, who like wasn't allowed to have any contact with Julia whatsoever, she voluntarily goes into exile with Julia because she didn't want her to be alone.
Right.
Which is so sweet. Could you imagine just never seeing your daughter for... I think Julia's like... let me work it out. She's like in her late 40s when she gets executed. No, not when she gets executed.
I was going to say, like, whoa, we jumped some stuff there.
Exiled, sorry. My brain's a mess. Yeah, but she goes into exile. She's fine. It's dandy. She's on an island with no wine, no men, no servants.
So rehab, basically.
Yeah, basically. And she's told, you're not coming back to Rome. You can stay there until you die.
Ah, dang.
And then Augustus changes his mind.
Oh, of course he does.
2 years later. But he still refuses to speak to Julia. He's like, no, I'm not talking to you. You had sex.
Man's holding a grudge.
Yeah. And he also tries his hardest, like with Mark Antony, to erase Julia from existence of Rome. So any coins, any statues, he destroys.
So who's his heir?
Oh, okay. This is difficult. The same year Julia went into exile, her 2 sons died.
Aww.
Again, I wonder how they died. Mysterious illness.
Did they fall down the stairs? Did they fall asleep in the bath? You know?
No, they got a mysterious illness and both died within a year of each other. That sounds rather suspicious.
Who do you think's behind that then?
Livia. Definitely Livia.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think Livia not only killed Julia's first husband, probably also killed her second husband, and probably also poisoned Augustus later on.
Nice. I'm kind of liking her though. I'm getting some bad bitch vibes from her, you know.
She was also one of the ones who convinced Augustus to exile Julia.
Oof.
Which is
she's got some power.
Not the best. Yeah, he's a major simp for her. Augustus is just head over heels for Livia. It's ridiculous. But yeah, she comes back to the mainland, not to Rome. She comes back to the mainland. So Augustus changes his mind and says, right, you can live in this villa. Again, no wine, no men. Okay? Julia's like, fine, I can deal with it. But then lots of other stuff starts happening. Julia's youngest daughter gets sent into exile because she also had too much sex.
Oh god.
Julia's,
that was
like
their
I said,
biggest problems back then, like just having too
yeah,
much
he
sex.
just
Whereas
had
we've
too
got
much
like
sex.
global pandemic, awful leaders. Oh god. Wow, they must have
And
had
they
it really
have
tough back then.
yeah, they remember they had Jesus as well. That's a major
Oh yeah.
problem.
Well then.
And yeah, Julia's youngest daughter gets sent into exile. Her youngest son also gets exiled
What did
because the
he
boy is
do?
like, this is so stupid. He refused to learn, basically.
He refused to go to
They
school,
would
you're saying? He
basically,
pulled too
yeah,
many
he was
sick
like,
days.
I don't want to go to school. And Augustus and Livia were like, fine, we'll just exile you. We have nothing else to do.
Oh my god, these
Augustus
two.
literally solved all of his familiar problems with exile. And Livia solved all of her problems with poison. So that is
Nice.
not factual. I wanna just clarify that we don't actually know if Livia poisoned them all, but it's very
Yeah.
suspicious.
So don't spam hate comments for Olivia, okay?
Yeah.
Cut her some slack. May not have been her fault. Probably was, but may not have been her fault.
Yeah. So and then it gets really complicated. Okay. So
Well, I've been following up till now, but you know.
Augustus dies.
No,
um
boo.
in 14 BC. We're at 14 AD. We're in 14 AD at this point, okay?
So Jesus has
I
been born.
haven't Jesus is born. Jesus is well and alive at this point. And guess who becomes emperor?
Who?
Just take a guess.
Tell me.
Just guess. No, just guess. I need you to guess.
Oh god. Is it one
Who
of...
would be the worst emperor out of all of the men I've just mentioned in this story?
God. Oh, is it the guy who went into the exile himself?
Yep.
No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh god. What's
And
his name?
don't you think it's a Tiberius?
Tiberius, yeah.
Don't you think it's a bit suspicious that literally every single heir died? Every single heir died, but then Livia's son magically is now the heir.
Magically is now the heir? No way.
Magically.
It's almost like they planned it.
It's almost like they planned it. I strongly believe that was all planned. But anyway, so Tiberius does the big boy thing and then starves everyone to death.
Nice.
So he cuts off Julia's food. She starves. He also executes her youngest son before she starves. So
the
now
one who wouldn't go to school.
Yep,
Bit harsh.
the one who wouldn't go to school. And he actually gets executed before Julia dies. So a lot of historians believe that Julia either voluntarily starved herself because at this point all of her sons are dead. She only has 2 kids left out of 6.
Oof.
One of said 2 kids is in exile, and the other one is about to be exiled. So historians think Julia either starved herself or Tiberius starved her. They don't actually know.
Right.
I don't think she starved herself. I think Tiberius was just looking for an opportunity to get rid of as many people as he could, because he does it to Julia, he does it to Julia's daughters, he does it to Julia's daughters' kids, and anyone else who was a problem to his throne, basically.
So does he remarry and have his heirs then?
I actually don't know. Wait, no, he never gets married again after Julia dies. But he had one other son with Vespania, who is the woman I mentioned before. And the son dies. Okay, this is a lot later. This is a lot
so he's
later on.
He's put all his in one basket and
he put all his eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And guess who becomes emperor after Tiberius?
Do I want to guess?
You probably won't get it right, so I'm not going to ask you to guess. Julia's grandson.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Who has been irrelevant for most of this time. He was born after she died. And at this point, every single one of Julia's kids are sadly dead. Because they all either got executed poisoned or exiled, and by Tiberius or Augustus. And yeah, Caligula, you might know who Caligula is.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, I reckon
Yeah,
that's the name.
he suffocates Tiberius.
Fair enough,
In-
I mean.
In
Yeah.
his bed, he suffocates Tiberius while he's sleeping. Tiberius is like 75 at this point, though, so he wouldn't have lasted too long anyway.
Yeah.
And then Caligula becomes emperor and starts a war with Poseidon.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've literally just speed ran through the entire first years of the
Yeah.
Roman Empire.
Wow.
But that's it, basically.
So, lots of executing people and exiling people
Exiles.
for
yeah.
not really any reason at all, just everyone's overreacting a bit, really.
But just being a strong, independent woman, you get exiled.
Well, as you rightly
And
should be, but you know.
Starved.
But yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I'm still trying to process and gather my thoughts really with it.
I know, that was a lot of information.
Yeah, that was a lot of information at once.
Like, a lot of information. I feel really bad.
Oh, no, don't be. Because I actually kind of get it now. For me, the most interesting part of it is the timeline of it. Because obviously, most of what I know about ancient history comes from my education. We both went to a Catholic school, so it obviously comes from the Bible. But
Jesus
obviously,
stuff.
seeing these link in, I find quite interesting. But yeah, Jesus. So how old is Julia when she dies? Like, what year is that?
52. She dies age 52 in 14 AD, a few months after her dad and son die.
Yeah. So,
which is quite young.
Obviously, but from what you've told me, it sounds like Olivia was behind most of this.
Yeah, Livia outlives everyone. She outlives Augustus, she outlives Julia, she outlives every single one of her grandchildren. The only person she doesn't outlive is Tiberius, which to me is extremely suspicious.
Yeah, just a little bit. So how old would she have been when she died?
Livia is quite old when she dies, because she's in her like late 70s, early 80s, because she's actually older than Augustus anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and everyone was in love with Livia, apart from Julia. Julia did not like Livia whatsoever.
Rightly so, yeah. She's killed her first two husbands.
Yeah.
And then children, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez. And I thought, like, the Greeks and everyone had all their family problems, but, yeah, they definitely had their issues then, by the sounds of things. But,
100%.
So, I've got other questions here, if you want to go into those, or if there's anything you want to add on. So, my next question is because obviously the first time I've ever heard about her is through you, but would you say she's well known in, like, history, or has she been, like, brushed under the carpet, maybe why is that, or
I feel like she isn't as talked about as she should be. Obviously historians who specialize in Rome and stuff will know who she is, but like she's not taught at school, she's not in textbooks, she's not on any of the Roman monuments or anything, because I think a lot of it comes down to Augustus tried his absolute hardest to completely erase her from Rome. He destroyed nearly every single statue of her in Rome, which there would have been a lot of statues of her. There's 2 left now that we've ever found.
Right.
And I think she's very important because she just wanted to do her own thing.
Yeah, this early Roman history definitely revolves around her. If you think about, she's sort of, from the way you've described, she's at the centre of quite a lot of these people.
Yeah.
And obviously you hear the name, I think if anyone thinks Roman history, their first name to think of is naturally Julius Caesar. Because of the Shakespeare play and everything.
Obviously, yeah.
I think a lot of, when they look at ancient history, a lot of people's knowledge comes from Shakespeare plays.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I'm surprised Shakespeare didn't do a play on Julia the Elder, because it sounds like something that'd be quite up his street, but you know.
Exactly. And she's just, she I feel like the reason she got exiled is because she didn't want to have to conform, is basically it. She didn't want to have to be the perfect Roman girl who gets married at 14 and spends the rest of her life just having babies and stuff, because there's this story when somebody asked her, how do all your children look like your husband? And she said, I only take on passengers when the ship is full. No, yeah. So basically what she was saying is I only have sex when I'm pregnant.
Yeah. Would you call her an early feminist? Would you call her like...
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. One of these...
Definitely.
Obviously, looking at history, you've got Cleopatra, who's sort of seen as one of those early feminists. But,
and
obviously
she would have
from what you've said, I think, obviously stuff was so different back in Roman times. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
It's particularly, for me, is looking at stuff like sexuality, because when... Like, I think we're going to get into this next episode because we're going to talk about LGBT History Month. But the thing is sexuality didn't become like a problem until like Victorian times, like that kind of time. So was she just going with everyone like most people were in Roman times?
I mean, basically she just did whatever she wanted to do with whoever she wanted to do wherever she wanted to do it. But yeah, I feel like it's a big thing that comes up with Rome is people always talk about like labeling sexuality. Romans didn't label sexuality because everything was fine. Up until about the 4th or 5th emperor, things started to become a bit complicated with male-on-male relationships. But, like, Rome never had a problem with female and female relationships. Like, it was never a problem. They literally had parties for women doing stuff, and that was just normal.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how that is normal, but then Julia wanting to have sex isn't.
Yeah, I think, was she sort of like, if you compare it to like a royal family now, was she expected to be like, obviously, no, they didn't have the media like we do now, of course. But would have there been that sort of idea that she had to be a certain way because she was the emperor's daughter and she was a figurehead in society?
Definitely. Also because Augustus was a very family central guy.
He doesn't sound like
it. he liked to portray this thing of he had the perfect family.
Right.
He was the ideal Roman father, brother, son, all that stuff. When he wasn't, you don't deal with your child by exiling her and forcing her to marry loads of men.
Yeah.
And he basically just wanted everyone to think he was perfect or he was a god, which he wasn't. Because, And the Roman people loved Julia. Like, when she got exiled, they petitioned, like, several times to get her back because they just loved her so much. Because apparently she was very kind. She went on campaigns a lot, which is abnormal for Roman families. And if you compare her to, say, Prince Harry.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you compare her to a celebrity or something today, like, who would she be?
Definitely Prince Harry, Meghan Markle.
Yeah.
100%. But she was perfect in Rome's eyes, but she wasn't perfect in the political standpoint, to the point where she would say what she wanted to say and she would do what she wanted to do. And that did not sit well with her dad, basically.
Because of this idea of this perfect family, so she was the only daughter of him and her biological mother.
Yeah,
she was the only child,
Augustus never has any other biological children.
Yeah.
So he adopts 2 boys, which were actually Julia's 2 eldest sons. But that's far too complicated for me to talk about because I don't understand the logistics of all that. So I just didn't go into it. But yeah, he does actually adopt Julia's two eldest sons.
Interesting. Her mother, does she die in exile, or does she come back with her when Julia comes out?
Her mum actually outlives Julia.
Really? Does she? Okay.
Yeah, and she kind of disappears again once Julia dies.
I'm a hallucination.
But she does actually have other kids with but it's not clear when. We don't know if it's before she was married to Augustus or after she was married to Augustus.
Yeah.
But yeah, she outlives Julia by like quite a few years, which is kind of depressing.
Well, that kind of leads me on to my next question in terms of like information and stuff. Like, where is this information found? Like, are these primary or secondary sources? That sounds very GCSE history, but like,
that's so
like,
GCSE history.
Where does this all come from? Like, where did you learn about her? Like, is it books? Is it, I don't know, ancient
really
scrolls?
depressing.
Like, yeah.
So I was supposed to be doing revision in school. So instead I was like, let's just look at Romans, which I am not learning about whatsoever. So I just went onto Wikipedia and I just searched up Augustus. And I read through Augustus's Wikipedia page, and then I read through his daughter's Wikipedia page. Obviously, the Wikipedia page is very basic.
Yeah.
So it has her life, her marriages, her exile, and her death. So I wanted to know more about her because there was a lot of this possibly happened, this might have happened. So I went onto other websites and I just did as much research as I could. And practically all the sources say the same thing. But then when you try to go into books, there's only really one book in English that you can buy, which is Augustus. But even then, she's not the main character, so she's not that central. A lot of the books about her are in Italian, which is great because I can't read Italian.
Well, you should know it, but you know.
I should know it, but I don't know it. But yeah, you can't read about her a lot. If you want to read about her, you'd either have to do an education on Roman women, probably in Italy, because that's where they cover her the most. And you'd also probably have to just look at every single website you can, because that's what I've done. I've literally gone as far as I can on the internet to search about her.
So, like, yeah, so so obviously, my example is we know about Jesus and stuff from the Bible. Are there, like, how do Romans write stuff down? Is basically my question. Like, did they write about her? Or when Augustus was doing his sweep, did he try and brush this all under the carpet and get rid of it? Like,
so there's this. Okay, Romans write everything down, literally everything that they wanted to be written down. Well, yeah, they got
the documentation of Jesus' death, don't they? They wrote. You can find that somewhere.
It's not clear. It doesn't say like the name Jesus, but it just they have public execution methods, records and stuff. But Augustus particularly wrote everything down, like literally everything. There's a wall in Rome with every single one of Augustus's achievements on it, and everything he loves in life, everything he's proud of, all his victories. Julia is never mentioned a single time on this thing. It talks about her kids, it talks about his wife. It never once mentions Julia. He literally did not want her to be remembered whatsoever.
Yeah.
He even said, "I wish I had died childless and unmarried."
So where does the information on her come from then? If it does obviously doesn't come from him.
Ovid is a lot of it. The guy who she had an affair with, is a big part of it, because a lot of the people she would have had affairs with would have been very respected Roman figures who would have had access to writing and all that. So it's not clear where all her information comes from, because a lot of it is just speculated. Because also Tiberius didn't want anyone to remember her because, you know, he starved her to death. But then once Tiberius is killed by Caligula wants people to remember his mother and his mother's mother. So he brings out a lot of this information But still, even a lot of it is just speculation
Yeah.
and random writers here and there that we can take pieces of writing from.
So, out of like your personal timeline, how accurate would you say it is? Like, do you think? Because obviously, like with history, this was a fairly long time ago, so there will be some inaccuracies. But in your
Yeah.
opinion, how accurate?
I mean, my timeline, I'd say it's pretty good because I tried to use as many different websites as I could to get all of my information. I didn't put anything down on it that only came up once on one website. So I made sure that something came up at least 3 times on every single website that I looked at before I wrote it down. But yeah, I'd say my timeline is pretty accurate in terms of how everything went. I didn't put specific dates. I just used like the winter or the summer of a particular year. And it's in order. It mentions everything. So yeah, I'd say my timeline's like not to boast or anything, but it's decent.
Pretty dang good, yeah. Well, you can always like have you been sharing that with people? Like
Yeah, I've shared the PDF with a couple of people, but I mean, I might make it public if I can.
Cool.
But you're probably gonna have to help me with that.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I literally obviously knew nothing because I watched your TikToks, but to me they didn't make any sense until now. But yeah, she's definitely a very interesting figure, and as we've been talking, one of the things that I've been thinking of is that history is written by the winners, essentially.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Augustus on this damn wall definitely proves that.
Yeah.
But
stupid wall.
Yeah, but like
it's such a stupid wall.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Augustus is and
it's still standing, so can you go and see it?
It's still there. You can go see it.
Oh, we should go.
Yeah.
And then just like graffiti, like Julia's story on it.
Just Julia.
Yeah, just Julia. Massive graffiti across it. Yeah.
I am not too fond of Augustus.
Yeah, I don't think I am either. But I think out of all of them, I think Tiberius is the one I just like most, but also I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's absolute simp. Oh my god.
He literally, there's a story. He followed his ex-wife around Rome, crying so many times to the point where Augustus had to either banish her or give him guards to make sure he didn't follow her around Rome crying. That to me, is simpery.
That is like Roman era. She's an e-girl. He's donating a grand to her stream every week.
Yeah.
But oh my god, yeah. I just find that hilarious though. And out of everyone here,
Tiberius was not a good emperor. Like Augustus founded the Roman Empire. Tiberius ruined it. Then Caligula came along. Caligula tried to build it back up again. Then Caligula went mad, and Caligula started a war with the ocean. So
yeah,
it literally
that was when he was never gonna win.
Yeah, no, he didn't win against the war against Poseidon.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Have I got any other question? Let me see. We've sort of covered this, but like, when did you first hear her? But like, what most intrigues you about her? Like what made you so interested? Is this just you being obsessed with things? Like, what, like, do you think resonates?
I think it's a lot of me just being obsessed with things. But also, like, I didn't like the fact there wasn't enough on her. Like, there wasn't enough information about her available to me, which made me even more interested. So I was like, why aren't people writing about this woman? She's so interesting. She's the reason for so much happening.
Yeah.
Why, like, without Julia, we would not have modern history the way it is. The Roman emperors wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah.
So it's also confusing why you would try to erase such a key figure from history.
Well, yeah, that's
just
again,
because
like history being written by the winners. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's also really funny. Like, she'll just... Like, there's this story of her, she went to the Senate, and she was wearing a revealing dress, and her dad asked her why, and she said, I don't dress for my father, I dress for my husband. So I just find her amusing.
Yeah, and she definitely sounds very. I don't. Yeah, it's just. It's so. I mean, I can kind of get why Augustus was trying to wipe her out, because she obviously has such a big influence over so many of these events. But yeah, she definitely seems like such a central figure to, because she's connected to everyone in that sense.
Yeah, she is.
Like, she's connected to Augustus, obviously his daughter, but Tiberius and his best friend and everything, and the fact that she had what was it? It really random thought, but it's Henry VIII. Yeah, bear with me.
Yeah.
He chops off Anne Boleyn's head, but
Yes.
it's Elizabeth who becomes basically the strongest Tudor monarch. Arguably.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, so sort of Anne Boleyn won in that sense, but she lost her head, you know. But at the end of the day, it's Julia's grandson.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, he goes mad and decides to fight the sea, but it's he in the end who becomes the emperor.
Yeah.
So essentially,
and
yeah,
avenges his family.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. I think that's really sad. What's that? And there should definitely be more information on her, because
in English as well. So
yes, in English. But yeah, now I've obviously come to the thought now, but that would make such a good Shakespeare play.
It would just, I feel like should just be a movie about her.
Yeah.
Like, there is one movie about her. I tried to watch it. It was atrocious. I turned it off.
Oh, God. Wait, what is it then?
I've forgotten what it's called. It's just, if you just look up Julie the Elder movies.
Yeah, I'll have a Google.
It's there. She's also in Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
If you've seen that.
I know.
She's, like, briefly there as Tiberius's wife, which isn't historically accurate, but it's fine.
Right.
I just find it so amusing that Julia and Tiberius hated each other. Like, literally despised each other.
Yeah.
So much.
Oh, jeez, it's not even coming up with a film.
Yeah, exactly. It's like such a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's got the guy who plays Priam in... No, that's not correct. Yeah, it's got the guy who plays Priam in Troy.
Right, yeah. So, next question, because I've just seen a picture of her, of a bust. So statues, you said that Augustus wiped them all out except for like 2. Where were these statues found?
I wish I knew that. I do not know that.
And are they still around then? Or, well, I'm assuming one of them's around, but yeah.
Well, there's one particular statue, I believe it's in Rome, in a museum. It's not open to the public anymore.
Oh.
I don't know why, but the other one got destroyed in an earthquake.
Oh.
So that's really depressing.
Yeah, so she really has, apart from these books and stuff, and obviously word of mouth, she really is sort of been like erased in many ways from history, which is quite sad actually, because
she's on a few coins as well.
Yeah, because she's very clearly a very powerful woman, and a very strong woman, and definitely an early feminist as well, by the sounds of things.
Definitely.
And yeah, I'm really glad that we sat down and did this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I've learnt a lot. And yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I thought this was gonna be boring, but it's not.
Thanks.
Because obviously I don't know much about Roman history at all. It's not classics isn't my like area of expertise. But it is obviously yours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think is there anything else? Do you have any like funny anecdotes or?
I'm trying to think. I mean, the thing that upsets me the most in this whole story, it's not even that she was exiled. It's that she literally had so many kids for her, like not for her father, like they weren't her father's kids.
Yeah.
But she had so many kids in the name of the empire. And that still wasn't enough for him.
Yeah. And
even after she was literally pregnant, after her husband had died, and she was made to remarry a man she hated, just because her dad wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, and that in itself is just like, there was obviously clearly something else going on there that isn't necessarily something that'd be written about, but this very tension between them, this relationship that clearly was very poor. And that probably comes from her mother, maybe, and the relationship he had with her mother. But yeah, I think how many sons did she have and how many daughters did she have?
Okay, so she had two sons, three sons. Well, technically she had four sons, but one of them died when it was like
The
a
sixth
baby.
one, yeah.
Yeah, the sixth one died, but she had three sons. Jesus Christ, I can't get this right. She had three sons and two daughters
Yeah.
with Agrippa,
And
and then
then
she had one son with Tiberius who died.
oh right, okay.
Well, they all died, but
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I find that really sad. But yeah.
It's so sad.
But boss ass bitch, definitely.
Yeah.
Um
And her daughter as well. Oh my God, her daughter is like, if you think Julia's a badass, her daughter
is
is
this
like,
is this Julia the younger or the other daughter?
no, Julia the younger story is really depressing. She dies like
Was
she
she the
gets
one who was
exiled.
Yeah.
And then Julia the younger has a child, and Tiberius like orders the baby to get killed.
Jesus.
Like, he's so paranoid that he orders a baby to get executed.
Yeah.
And then Julia starves to death.
Mm.
But her other daughter, Agrippina, lovely name,
Yeah.
gets also exiled. But she has like 6 kids before she's exiled.
Right.
So this whole family is so fertile. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And her son is Caligula. And she kind of is like, you know what, I'm not putting up with Tiberius's bullshit anymore. And basically just calls him out on all his stuff. And then he exiles her. And
with wine or without wine?
Without wine. But she has men this time, so it's okay. But yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely a very fertile family there. So what, did her children survive or were they killed? Or how did they escape?
2 of them. Oh, this is so complicated. So Agrippina's 2 sons, 2 of her eldest sons were exiled with her. They also starved. And then I think Caligula was the last boy. And then Caligula had 3 other sisters who were all named Julia something. And it's so confusing. It's like all Julia Livia, Julia Drusilla, Julia... Oh, it's all so confusing. And he has sex with all 3 of his sisters.
Nice. Again, sweet home Alabama.
In order to get an heir. But then one of them tries to execute him. So he executes her. One of them dies in childbirth with his kid. And then the third one, I forgot what happens to her. But then Caligula gets executed as well.
You see, don't tell me this isn't something that'd be an amazing, like, family drama.
Exactly. Like, there's a series about Caligula on Netflix called Roman Empire.
Right, yeah.
Which is good.
I'll have to give
it's not that great, but, like, it's decent enough to watch.
Yeah. Well, but that would make a very good family drama TV show.
I know.
You think about it. Just call it
Augustus,
Julia.
Julia.
Who would you cast as Julia?
Oh, that's hard. I've thought about this so much. Obviously, because I'm a simp, Scarlett Johansson would be amazing. Oh my god. But I feel like ScarJo wouldn't. Actually, no, I feel like ScarJo would be great as Julia. But my ultimate cast would be Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Right. Yeah. What about Tiberius?
But when she was younger. Tiberius you're gonna hate me for saying this. Who's the guy that won the Oscar?
When?
Against Adam Driver.
Joaquin Phoenix.
That one. He'd be amazing. He'd be an
cool.
Amazing Tiberius.
Yeah, actually,
only because I love him in Gladiator. Yeah. He's in Gladiator. And oh my god, they're basically the same character.
Number 1 simp of the Roman Empire, yeah.
Oh my god, if you want to talk about simps in the Roman Empire, it gets so much worse. Jesus Christ. You think Tiberius is bad?
Go on, name a few.
Oh, Julius Caesar, for one.
The
man could not keep it in his pants.
I'm not surprised, yeah.
Who else? Ovid. He gets exiled as well, by Augustus for having
Why?
sex with his daughter.
Surely, like,
Um,
it's just easier to execute these people than exile them. Because exile, you got to get them on a boat, you got to ship them away, go back.
Which
Just
would have
execute
taken a
them.
while back then. Augustus he didn't really have the balls to do that.
Mm.
Oh, this is another thing that really annoys me. In all of my sources, it said Augustus took pity on Julia and exiled her instead of executing her. I was like, wow,
thanks. But you're not going to give me any men or any wine.
Yeah, and also, if any men did go to the island, Augustus had to write everything down about their body before they went, and then after they went. It's so funny. It's like he had them physically examined before and after.
Oh my god. Oh,
Yep.
Jesus, these Romans. We've just hit our hour mark. So, do you want to wrap
Oh.
up? Or are there, like, any last, like, bits and pieces?
I mean,
you
I
want to
know,
mention?
not really. This story was quite heavy, so I feel bad for anyone who's listening.
I think it's been interesting, though. And we've got our witty banter with it. So, you know, to keep it
Yeah,
light-hearted.
and there's a lot of names. I feel like that's what confuses people. There's so many people involved in all of these stories, and they all have the same names.
They all have the
okay?
same name,
It's-
Just
Do
to
you
make
know
things
how
easy.
confusing it is at 3 a.m. when you're manically researching about the Romans for all of these people to be named Julia? Do you know how confusing it is?
You're the weirdest
Like-
procrastinator ever.
I literally
I'm not
do
going
not
to
do homework.
revise what I actually need to revise, but I'm going to do
I'm
an
just going to
in-depth
write a
study on something
4-page
else.
timeline. And oh my god, it's terrible. I literally tried to do an in-depth research on every single member of the family tree, and I'm on the 3rd person, okay? And it's taken me nearly 4 days.
Oh my god. Whoa.
Ridiculous.
Jesus. I don't think I have any last questions about it.
I mean, do you want to talk about what you're going to do next time?
Yeah, I feel
'Cause
like
next time it's going to be mostly you talking, right? 'Cause
yeah, I'm doing
my tongue
research.
is tired.
Well, for this podcast, we are sort of planning on alternating each week.
Yeah.
And because I feel like that would work best.
People will get bored of my voice.
They'll get bored of my voice as well. But I think for this podcast we can just like so many different things. I think we should just talk about this now at the end, just so people know what's coming if they've made it this far into the podcast.
I feel like people got to the point where she had her second kid and were like, bye.
Yeah, bye. I'm off.
Bye-bye.
But yeah, I feel like we can obviously do more podcasts on like individual figures, talk about the life like we have today. But also,
I feel like you need to do Anne Boleyn.
yes, I would love to do Anne
Definitely.
Boleyn. Yeah.
You need to do it because I'm not qualified enough in that subject.
Yeah. Well, there's so many people want to do.
And I have like I really want to do the women of Troy.
Yes, yeah, I'll be
Or just the
interested in
women
that.
of myth in general because I really want to talk about Medea. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think also the we were sort of thinking about doing a Song of Achilles review because we've both read that now.
Yes, people might be a bit angry with my interpretations of the book,
you see,
but
as
it's fine.
time has gone on, I've sort of like I looking back on it when I read it, it's not as good as I thought it was gonna be. That's what I'm gonna say.
It's a good book,
Yeah.
but like I feel like it's very overhyped.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
but we can get into that.
But this is
obviously, yeah.
we can get into that another day.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
this is
anyway, next time, what we're sort of planning on doing, as it's the month of February, which is LGBT History Month, I think just
Yay.
sort of something similar to this, looking at different figures throughout history, LGBT figures. Obviously, one of the ones I really want to do is Alan Turing, which I know he's spoken a lot about now.
That's such a good one.
But I think it's one of my favourite films is The Imitation Game. So
such a good film.
Benedict Cumberbatch in that film's brilliant. So I think that's definitely going to be our next episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think that's all we've got to say. I'm just going to plug the socials because I put in that in caps locks in our notes. We currently have an Instagram at the moment. That's all we've got.
Yeah.
It's at Wayback When Podcast. It'll be linked in the description. And from there you can follow us both on TikTok and on Instagram. Maria does a lot of TikToks about history.
Yeah. If you want to
so-
know more about Julia, just look at my TikTok.
Yeah, and go and get her some followers because she's brilliant. My TikTok
You're
is
brilliant as well.
my TikTok's all books, and so is my Instagram. But that's all on the Instagram. Obviously, there'll be links to that below.
We're nerds. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. At the moment, our plans are to hopefully update, post weekly. Hopefully on Wednesdays, I think. And this should be going out on Spotify. Let's hope I didn't fail.
Hopefully, we can work that out.
Yeah. But I feel like that's everything.
Also want to clarify. I want to clarify, if I got anything wrong, I hope I didn't. But if I got anything wrong, feel free to correct me, because I feel like some of my information on Mark Antony and that lot wasn't correct. But don't take everything I say in these podcasts as the word of God, because I do research it through him. So
and at the end of the day, it's history, and it is written by the winners, and we're not always going to be 100% correct, especially when it comes to ancient
Augustus.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But God, you give me so
start
many
an
ideas now.
Augustus hate club.
Yeah. But wow, this has been so much fun. Feel free to check us out on Instagram and give us likes or whatever on this podcast. Give us a good rating. 5 stars, please. That'd be nice. And we hope to see you next time. So yeah, I've got
hopefully you don't fall asleep.
Yeah, this has been the longest outro in the world, but yeah, so I think we should just say bye and leave now. But yeah, bye.
Bye.